Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and it is that time where we finally begin to finish out the Tyrannosaur series from the Beasts of the Mesozoic. We have the final few figures from Wave 3 here to check out, and I figured we'd begin with one of the smallest. We've got ourselves the Moros intrepidus, and you can see it's pretty much as it usually is when it comes to the Beasts of the Mesozoic. You have the same type of packaging. You've got the species name over here, Tyrannosaur Series, the fact that it is 1/18th scale, a nice shot of the figure with some gorgeous artwork, and then of course the window area where you can see the figure, but the glare is absolutely murdering it right now. You can see again, we've got all the Beasts of the Mesozoic logos and stuff all through the course of the box, and then here on the back, again, a really nice shot of the figure here, as well as some information on it, and the checklist down here showing off many of the different, actually all of the different figures that are in Wave 3. A good bit we have reviewed. There are 3 others outside of this one that we have not yet, so let's pop this one out of the box and check it out. So of course, first of all, you have the assembly instructions. Again, I always say this and will always say it. Very important to take a look at these. Make sure you pay attention to these once you get your Beasts of the Mesozoic figure so you don't damage it and you can understand basically how it all works and how you can, put it on the base, assemble the figure safely and all of that stuff. And we've also got our trading card. You can see a really nice image of the Moros, some nice artwork here for the front of the packaging, and you can also see, the front of the card, and you can also see the back here shows off a little dino toy photography, the species name here, and of course the Beasts of the Mesozoic logo, as well as information on the species and then who is responsible for the art and the Creative Beast logo. So again, really love the addition of these cards. They're just so fun to collect. On top of that, you've got yourself quite a few different connections so that you can apply your figure to the base. You can also see that you have alternate feet, so you can basically switch up the poses for the feet of the dinosaur. You've got like open-toed versions, closed-toed versions, making it look like the dinosaur's picking its foot up and walking and stuff. I don't usually do a whole lot with those, but it is really cool to have those included. Definitely something that, most people that are into creating dioramas are really going to enjoy. Then we've also got our base, and you can see the base is nice and small this time around. Not a whole lot going on with that, but it is actually a really nice looking base, and it looks to me like a totally different base than any of the others that I've seen before. I don't really remember any of the others having that particular base. Sometimes the dinosaurs will share bases, just, switch it up when it comes to the colors, but that one looks unique to this figure if I remember correctly. And then we have our Moros itself, and just as I expected, it is absolutely gorgeous. And, I'm only a few seconds into this, but I can tell you it's definitely the single best Moros figure that is out on the market right now. Of course, there aren't really all that many. I mean, if you look at its competition, you've got the likes of Schleich or Mattel, which Mattel's is fun, but it's by no means an accurate interpretation of a Moros. But again, it is a really beautiful figure, so even if they were, abundant on the market and there were tons of different versions of the Moros, I still feel like this one is a fantastic version and would potentially be the best overall regardless. Very nice coloration to this one as well. I really quite like those reddish tones on the underbelly of the Moros. So, as always, let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look and we'll check it out from there. So starting up at the head sculpt of our Moros intrepidus, you can see we have really nice looking paintwork up here. Of course, nice detailing, but I'm quite impressed with the amount of paint and coloration we have. You can see we've got some nice dark browns that have been applied kind of with like a wash-like fashion, like they look a little watered down, so they really creep into the skin texture there. You can also see we've got some reddish tones, some yellowish tones, some even darker variations of browns, and maybe even kind of looks like some blacks that we have kind of running up and over the snout of the Moros, and that all is basically taking place here in the skin textured areas of the snout, moving up into the palate. But as we move back a little closer to the eye area, you can see we pick up some very nice feathering. We also have, again, a mixture of browns and blacks, and then we have a light gray that sort of circles around that area, and there's also a little area of like a light tan as well as down here again. So Lots and lots of color variation for sure in the face of this one. You can see the skin texture does look really nice, really crisp. We've got the nostrils right there, and of course our Moros has lips, which is always a great thing. And then as you move back, the feather detail also looks very crisp, very vibrant, which I expected no less. You can see the eye is also painted with a red, given a black pupil. Also has a very nice gloss coat to it. The snout has an entire area that looks very shiny, a little bit of a satin look to that area. But as you look into the inside of the mouth of our Moros, we've got a nice pinkish tone of color in there, nice gloss coat as well. You can see the teeth are sculpted nicely, painted nicely. No sloppiness or anything that I'm seeing. Very nicely, actually, on the inside of the mouth on the upper side. Very, very nice and precise when it comes to both the, of course, sculpt and paintwork. And the jaw opens probably about that wide. I don't think I'd want to test my luck and push it any further. As you move back into the neck, you can see actually a little bit of scruffy feathering here on the top of the head of the Moros, but as you move back, you begin to pick up some articulation. So you've got one joint here, and the joints help to give you some very nice posability for the Moros. You can basically make it go up about that high. It's about as far down as it goes. The left and right is really nice. Really, really smooth. You could actually probably get that head, to completely swivel around, as it is obviously on a swivel. As you move down here, we also have a few more of those patches of the light gray picking up here in the back of the neck. More really nice feather detail. Very almost emu-like kind of feathering, where it's just kind of laying on the dinosaur. It doesn't look like it's perfectly uniformed or anything, and I wouldn't really expect it to look that way on a dinosaur like this. You can also see that we've got some really nice reddish tones here that pick up in the throat region of the dinosaur and move down along the underside. You can see it move through the chest all the way into the stomach, and it actually transitions away to an orangish brown as we move back there. And of course, when it comes to a Beasts of the Mesozoic figure, it is always overloaded with color. They do a great job of applying a lot of variation of color. You can see that the darker black tones start to kind of break up here as we move along the back of the dinosaur, and then the gray starts to kind of work its way in here. And previously we only had a few spots. Now it's pretty much the majority of the color that we see here. We've got a little bit of like an orangish brown as we move down, some more of the black kind of running along the lower part of the stomach. As you lead down into the arms, you can see the muscle definition. Even if they are feathered, the muscles are shining a bit through the feathering there. And as you move down a little further, you can see that we have like an off-white pickup here and overtake a large portion of the arm moving down into the hand. Of course, we've got more articulation here, though it is a bit stiff because I haven't moved it yet. You do have the ability to go forward and back, and not so much away from the body. I don't know if maybe it's just that one. Let's go ahead and try to move this one. Yeah, this one's moving a little bit better. Sometimes the joints are a little stiff. Now you can see you can come out away from the body a little bit, and then forward and back very nicely. Same deal, I would think, for the elbow. It's a little stiff also. And then again, you can see we also have wrist articulation. Forward and back can also swivel. The elbow can also swivel. You can kind of hear them clicking as I'm breaking them in for the first time. And that is one thing that you'll often encounter with these figures is stiff articulation at first. If they haven't really been, broken in or moved around or anything quite yet, sometimes it'll take a little bit of work to really get those joints going. But once they get going, they usually get going quite nicely. As you move down, you can see the nails are painted with a nice glossy black, and you can also see a yellowish tone for the undersides, like the palms of the hands. I love the fact that there's like a little extra feathering kind of leading off of the back of the arm right there. As you move up here, you can see a joint in the midsection, which moves pretty nicely. Obviously not too much, but it does have some nice left and rights, and also up and down a little bit. Pretty much the amount of articulation you would expect for a dinosaur like that to have. Again, some more of the black kind of designing and patterning here as you move along, more of the grays, and you can see that we've kind of got like some, actually not grays, blacks moving here through almost like a wash-like fashion, sort of creeping through the grays. More of the off-whites. You've got kind of like almost like some orangish or yellowish browns right there, kind of creeping through with a gray sort of dry brushing over. You can also see that continue to run down here past the knee into the calf, but then the feathers disappear. We lead down into the legs where we return back to a skin texture. They're painted with a yellow, but obviously have like a brown wash to them to add a little variation of color. You've got some scoots moving down the front of the foot, down into the toes. The nails again painted with a nice glossy black. Yes, the dew claws are also painted. And then articulation-wise, moving down the leg, you can see we've got the hip articulation. I'm sorry if I'm bumping the camera. Hip articulation right there. Oh boy, that knee is uber stiff. Let's see if we can get the other one moving a little better. So there, we got the knee moving a little bit over here, but it is definitely stiff. You can swivel the knees as well. And then you got more articulation right here. Again, we can swivel. And then a little bit more down here, also can swivel. So, as always, very impressive articulation through the entire figure. This leg is just very stiff right now. But as you move back up, you can see that we again have the blacks, but the black sort of starts to taper away, and we transition more to a variation of a dark brown as you lead out into the tail. You've got a pretty cool striping effect as you lead out, mixing with the darker browns. You've got the light grays moving through as well, and then a lighter tone here moving along the underside, which kind of has like a slight orangish tint, but it tapers away to an off-white as you lead out there toward the tip of the tail. And you can see that patterning does cease right about here, and then we only have that light tone, that kind of off-white, and the underside looks very nice as you move through again, even though we've already taken a look at it. We'll take one more look real quick. The opposing side is, of course, going to look the same as the first side that we had seen because it is a fully posable figure. You do have a little extra articulation right here in the tail, again, left and right, up and down, and it is a wire, of course, tail, so you can get some extra posability with the figure. But that is definitely the single best Moros intrepidus figure I have ever seen. And then we've also got the base. The base sports a very nice sort of a forested kind of a look. You've got like some nice green vegetation down here. It kind of reminds me of like a nice mossy setting. You've got some stones and stuff, a few sticks and everything that are just laying around. And it almost looks like you're leaving the forest heading toward a stream or something, because these are the type of rocks you often see next to a stream. So it kind of gives me the feeling of like a stream running through a wooded area, and the Moros is kind of walking down, maybe to get a drink. I don't really know. But the base is very nicely sculpted. You can see all the texturing looks great, and the paintwork is exceptionally well done. You have very nice variation of color, even to the greens, but as you move down here into the stones, you can see the stones are painted with a dark tone, but you also have a dark brown that kind of creeps through all of the stones. It all looks really nice, as always for a Beasts of the Mesozoic release. And just in case you are wondering, of course, the Moros can stand completely fine on its own. You do have the connections for the base, but you don't necessarily need them. As far as a size goes, lengthwise, you are looking at approaching 8¼ inches, but not quite there, or around 20½, maybe a little over as far as 20½ centimeters. And then for a height, just shy of 3½ inches, or a hair under 9 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being next to our Moros from the Beasts of the Mesozoic. And you can see it's really quite small. And honestly, this is one of those figures where I feel like we really don't need very many comparisons, because we've had a few figures in the past that are of a very similar size. And to show you that, here is a comparison with the Guanlong. Now you can see the Guanlong is pretty much exactly the same size, my camera's losing focus, the same size as our Moros. So if you do have the Guanlong, you're definitely going to know the size of this Moros. Same can be said for the Mesozoic Tyrannosaur. You can see again, very much so the same size as our Moros. So I don't really feel like we need very many comparisons or anything past this point, as we already know basically what the size is of this figure. So this brand new Wave 3 Beasts of the Mesozoic Tyrannosaur Series Moros intrepidus is yet another really nice figure. If you have been in the market for a Moros, I absolutely recommend grabbing this one. And this one is special just because there are so few figures out there for this species. It is one of those species that for some reason just doesn't get much love. Don't know why, but it definitely deserves more. But luckily we have a Beasts of the Mesozoic version to cover our want and need for this species, as this, even if there were a ton, like I said earlier, if there were a ton of this figure out, or at least as far as the species go, I feel like this would still be probably the best version. So it's definitely nice to have that definitive version of a Moros, in my opinion. And the sculpt again looks great. It's extremely crisp, extremely highly detailed, as you always find for a Beasts of the Mesozoic release. It also has tons of coloration added to it. They're never lazy when it comes to their paint apps, and you can definitely see that is the same case for the Moros. And again, the coloration and paint application I think looks very nice and natural. Absolutely the type of coloration I could see on this species. Once in a while you'll get a Beasts of the Mesozoic release that's a little bit colorful, and you look at it and you're like, I could potentially see it being that color, but it's a little out there. This, not so much. It absolutely is pretty much exactly what I would expect this dinosaur to look like. And you, of course, as always, have tons of articulation, which is always, again, probably the main selling point for any Beasts of the Mesozoic release. So if you are interested in grabbing this, again, they are available to purchase right now, so make sure you head on over to the link that I will include in the description and go grab yourself one of these incredible Moros intrepidus figures. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.